In the world of modular synths, some modules aren't simply utilities. They unlock entirely new ways of thinking about sound and modulation. Silhouette, the latest module from Mannequins by Whimsical Raps, is exactly that. It's beautifully minimal, and yet it's deeply powerful. I think of Silhouette, and I might get this wrong, as an interpolating scanner, a way to morph between multiple signals, be they audio or CV, all of the inputs are DC coupled, in either smooth or abrupt transitions, or somewhere in between. A module that it reminds me of is the Duranalog Morph 4, which allowed you to similarly morph between 4 different waveforms. But Silhouette has a little bit more going for it than that, with some key functions such as a bucket brigade delay and a smearing digital reverb as well. And so with 6 input channels, Silhouette allows you to blend, sequence, or animate between waveforms, modulation sources, or even entire voices, which we'll look at today. At its core is a high-resolution scanning circuit capable of everything from subtly crossfading to glitchy jumps between inputs. And since it's a Mannequins module, it rewards deep hands-on exploration, uncovering unexpected behaviours and emergent textures. Think of it as a way to dynamically shift between multiple inputs, much like a crossfader, but one that moves through multiple layers in a controlled or chaotic way. This means you can use it to create evolving drones, shifting envelopes, harmonic morphing, and complex movement that feels alive. With CV control, it becomes a performance tool as much as a compositional one. Now, I only received the module yesterday, and so we'll just dive into one patch today, pairing it with Just Friends as a sound source, which conveniently has 6 outputs. And we'll look at a little ambient patch to show off some of the functions. As mentioned, the module only arrived yesterday, and so I might get a few bits wrong. I read the manual 3 or 4 times and I got a kind of idea, but I think the manual even describes itself as a work in progress. But I've kind of got a handle on the functions, and I just wanted to show you a patch on the first day. So let's get started. What we've got here, I've got a really simple little setup with the Monome Crow module, which is connected via I2C to Just Friends. I've got all 6 outputs of Just Friends coming into the 6 inputs of Silhouette, because this is probably the easiest, quickest way to show it off. And then very simply, I've got the left and right inputs coming into this little ALM HPO headphone module, which, if you've got any headphone modules, they also double as nice output to line level modules. So that's what I'm using it for here, and it's going off to my sound card. Everything you hear in this demo will be pretty much without effects, apart from a little bit of mastering in Logic to bring it up to level. Now, let's look at Silhouette and let's talk through the features. The way I'm going to do this is I've got a little pattern playing on the awake script on Norns that is, if I just turn it up, there. So you can hear it going into each of the 6 oscillators is going into the 6 inputs of Silhouette and coming out of the left and right output. I've got the output set to mix. Now let's walk through each of the knobs, the functions, and what they do. And let's start in this kind of section here with spot and lens, which those two kind of control the VCAs, for how the kind of interpolation works, as best as I understand it. And let's start with lens, actually. So lens, when you're in level mode, suddenly you can hear I can hear very little. And the reason for that is lens, when it's way over there, when it's completely anti-clockwise, you're only going to hear wherever Spot is focused on. There you go. You can hear that one, which is going to this bit. And you can see there, the little light display is telling me that I'm going to focus on there. You can hear that to a startling degree when you start playing with this knob. So this knob, when you've got something plugged in to the Spot CV input, this acts as an attenuator, which is nice because if you've got an LFO running, you can kind of change the amplitude of the LFO. So say, for example, that's running, you get to kind of control the amplitude there. When it's not got CV plugged in, it controls the internal LFO. Now you can hear when I turn lens up, you can hear more of the other inputs. The reason for that is when lens is turned right up like that, essentially very little to no gain reduction is happening when you're in the focused spot. However, when you turn it right that way, lots of gain reduction is happening. There's a little switch here, which I won't go into too much today, but this changes the behavior of the lens control. Far left is the version I've used to date, which controls the level of the VCA gain reduction. Chain makes it more of a side chain. And Expand says something else, don't really know quite yet. But again, this is a first video walkthrough. I only got the module yesterday, so I'm just looking for a sweet spot more than anything. And I find for ambient stuff that you've got here with Just Friends, just there, just about 2-3 o'clock, gives a nice kind of almost a granular feel to the gain reduction. Feels a little bit like the Instro Arbor module, almost in the way that it spreads the voices out in the stereo field. Spot is simply where we're focused. And so if I turn lens all the way down, Spot basically controls, and I turn off the internal LFO, Spot will control where the focus is. I've used the word focus, which is tremendously unhelpful because there is a different knob called focus. So let's call it Spot controls which of the inputs is coming through into the outputs. But again, we turn up lens and Spot has less of a dramatic effect. And then we turn up this knob and we get some nice internal modulation. There we go. Okay, let's talk about the two effects, I would call them. And so effect number one, is the Bucket Brigade delay, which here is called focus. And at 12 o'clock, it is at shortest delay time. If I turn it all the way up here, you can start to hear, it's actually quite nicely syncopated by accident. You can start to hear the delay line. Yeah. And this gives you an idea of the delay and how it's working. There's no feedback to the Bucket Brigade delay. However, the way to achieve feedback, as far as the manual describes, is the Bucket Brigade goes off to the light output. If you plug the light output to the middle of the inputs there, then it'll be feeding back on itself. because that's I think it's called the all input. And what the all input does is it plays whenever things aren't ducking via lens and spot. As far as I understand, I might have got that wrong. Again, second day with the module, not the most detailed manual, though a very pretty one. So that's focus. You can hear as you modulate it, you get those classic bucket brigade delay artifacts, which you might like to control with some external modulation too. Blur. So let's leave it there. Blur. Let's turn it up. Blur is a digital reverb, as far as I understand it. Excuse me. The manual talks about taking the background and performing some kind of bokeh effect on it, but what it also talks about is it talks about it kind of emulating old kind of rudimentary digital reverbs. And what Blur will give you, it'll give you a little bit of high-pitched hiss at various settings. I don't actually mind that. I quite like it, but you can always filter it out. There is I think, a low-pass filter inside, which is filtering out some of it. But there you can hear kind of some bird chirpy noises coming from the Blur delay. Right, I've probably done a really bad job there, but it is my second day with the module. I might follow this up with a more in-depth, detailed explanation of what Silhouette does with multiple patches. But for now, let's just focus on this single patch and muck around with it and see if we can find some sweet spots. Thanks for watching.